Hey, it's Theo, and thank you for joining me. And today we are reviewing all the priest cards from the new expansion across the Timeways. I've been doing a couple of reviews already on my channel, and I got a playlist with all my reviews if you want to check out more of these. And I'll be covering every new card from this expansion. So hopefully you'll join me and take a look together at these new cards. Now, let's get started as always with the Fabled card. And oh man, the favorite card for Priest certainly is something. It is Medivh the Hallowed, a 10 mana 7/7, cost 0 if you control Karazhan. We'll get to that in a little bit. Battlecry, silence and destroy all other minions. So that is a very powerful fact on Medivh. Now, what is Karazhan? It is a very famous raid in World of Warcraft, but here it is a location, Karazhan the Sanctum, a 10 mana 2 durability location, cost 0 if you're wielding Atiesh. Summon 2 random 8 cost minions. Now, then of course, Atiesh is also a very famous weapon, the very first caster legendary you could get in World of Warcraft, and it is a 10 mana 1/3 weapon here as well. Cost 0 if you control Medivh, double the damage and healing of your spells. So obviously, yeah, these work all very well together, because if you play one and you have the other two will cost 0. And if you get to play all these 3 together, it is insanely powerful, right? First of all, you can clear the board of any locations, right? You equip the weapon, which doesn't do anything immediately, and then you can play Karazhan and just get a nice board with 2 8-drops and that Medivh, and then you can do that again in 2 turns, of course. And yeah, that's a big board swing, and just Medivh by itself is super powerful, right? Like Silence and Destroy, it's pretty similar, although not quite the same as the Reno hero card, which eventually got nerfed to 10 mana, right? And it's basically was a one-sided clear, though this is a two-sided clear, you gotta remember. But this card doesn't require any deck building, and there are some ways to cheat it out, right? You can potentially make it cost 1, you can maybe have the location reduce its cost, you can potentially get multiple of them, because you are playing Priest after all. So really amazing card, Medivh. And the location, it's pretty good, although, yeah, by itself you wouldn't really be playing this, though Medivh I could see being played by itself. Though unlike Medivh, I don't think you would necessarily play this by itself as a 10 mana location, but when it's costing 0, if you have the weapon, yeah, it's pretty good, right? 2 8-cost minions, they're usually pretty beefy, and it just works really nicely with Medivh as a 1/2, right? You don't even need the weapon, you can just play this one for 10, and then play Medivh and then summon the dragon, so very powerful. And then Atiesh is the only one that's really situational, but this weapon is a permanent Velen effect pretty much, unless your opponent for some reason is playing Viper, and yeah, that just makes any spell suddenly a lot better. And yeah, priest spells are kind of lacking, a lot of AoE, right, is pretty weak, so this makes it a lot stronger, although yeah, it is by turn 10 probably you'll be getting it, and there's a good chance of course you'll be playing this card for 0 mana. So overall, yeah, this looks like a really strong package. Like Medivh by itself seems great, and then you get those other 2 cards with it, which yeah, aren't too bad either, especially not if you combine them together, where you get all 3 for 10 mana or even less if you got to cheat one of these out. So I think I'll be giving this card 5 stars. Just, yeah, Medivh just looks amazing. Just that board clear kind of priest needed, even though it's 10 mana. I think this just looks like an incredibly strong card. Then we have the Power Word Barrier, a 2 mana holy spell. Give a character Divine Shield, give minions in your hand +2 health. So there's a lot of cards in this set with buffing your minions in your hand with health, or having a synergy with that, so we get to a lot more. So it isn't just some random card in here. And it's a package of 6 cards, but I'm kind of struggling to figure out if it's really going to be worth it or not to run the whole package. I'm leaning towards no. So based on that, I don't think this card is going to be super amazing, because yeah, it is 2 mana, and then give a character Divine Shield. Not really amazing, like give yourself Divine Shield, not really worth it. And you do give your minions in your hand +2 health. But yeah, generally a deck like that wants to run a deck full of minions, right? But then this is a spell. But yeah, for 2 mana, though, getting that +2 health on some of the future cards is pretty good actually. But yeah, overall though, I feel like the archetype or these cards are not quite gonna work. So I'll be giving this card 2 stars. Just, yeah, maybe if the archetype works right, this is better. There just aren't enough cards in Priest that really synergize, I think, with these kind of cards. So that's why I give it that rating. The next card that synergy with it looks a bit better. It's the Ember Priestess, a 2 mana 1/4 taunt. Battlecry, restore health to a character equal to this minion's health. It's a bunch of health for 2 mana, right? 4 health taunt plus the 4 health. So not the worst for 2 mana, but yeah, Priest is kind of struggling with a lot of things right now if you want to play a slower deck, which is the only thing this goes into, right? But when you buff this card, right, like if you buff it twice with +2 health, yeah, this is a 2 mana 1/8 taunt that restores 8 health. That is quite a lot. That's big taunt, although not a lot of attack, but also a big heal, and yeah, that is just really strong. But again, I'm just kind of doubting this archetype. Also, you can, with future cards, set this attack equal to the health, so it can be like a 2 mana 8/8 dem with 2 buffs, which looks pretty strong. So I feel like this is a pretty good card by itself. Just, yeah, again, the archetype of, yeah, the hand buff with Priest, I'm not entirely convinced by, but this looks like a good card in that archetype, so I'll be giving this one 3 stars. And the next card in this archetype is the Disciple of the Dove. A 3 mana 2/2 Battlecry, draw a minion, give minions in your hand +2 health. So this card looks very similar to a Paladin card from the past, which was +1/+1 stats, and it was really good at Paladin because we were kind of lacking draw, and it had a lot of good cards to buff with it. Cards that really scaled well, and again, yeah, this card, it looks good, right, if you compare it to that, but again, the archetype, I'm not convinced about, but yeah, just draw a minion, so guaranteed you get another minion that you buff, then you buff a bunch of other cards in your hand. Yeah, it just seems pretty solid in the archetype, right? I don't think you want to be playing this in a deck that isn't built around it, because, yeah, 3 mana, draw a card, you already have tutors as a priest, and those are generally better. And yeah, this one, yeah, you don't have too many minions often with priest, a lot of spells, and health buff then isn't that huge, but hey, still, solid card, right? So I'll be giving this 3 stars. And just like the 2-drop, here we have another payoff card for those hand buffs. We have the Cleansing Lightspawn, a 4 mana 2/3 elemental with lifesteal and Battlecry, deal damage to an enemy minion equal to this minion's health. So by itself, it's deal 3 damage, 2/3. Not amazing, but yeah, once you start buffing this once or twice, it's gonna be a very big heal. Like even 5 health, right, is pretty good. We saw that before with the Gyre Worm, I think, even though that could go face, but yeah, you often had to forge it. But that's just a big heal and removal, and then potentially it's also a big minion again. You can maybe set the attack equal to the health, and then you get maybe a 4 mana 7/7 that deals 7 damage with lifesteal, and that is pretty strong, right, for a deck like Priest. So this is a good payoff. But once again, I just feel like the archetype might not be the best. Again, right, you want to play a lot of minions with those hand buffs, but then, yeah, you get the card like this, which is more like a control kind of card, and then control decks usually play more spells, right? You need more removal, and then those hand buffs get worse, right? This gets worse. So I'm not entirely convinced about yeah, what it goes into, but yeah, by itself, if you buff it once, right, it already seems like a solid card, and then it becomes pretty amazing if you buff it more than once. So I think I'll give it 3 stars. If this archetype works, then this, I think, is a big part in it. And then the card I've been mentioning is the Divine Augur, a 5 mana 5/5 Draenei. Battlecry, set the attack and health of every minion in your hand to the higher of the 2 stats. So yeah, this is made for those health buffs, right? So idea is, right, you buff health a couple of times, then you play this, and suddenly every minion in your hand is huge, is like +6/+6 stats or something like that, or even more. And yeah, that's a lot of stats, especially on those lifesteal minions or the card that heals. But yeah, that is 5 mana. Then you have to set up those things a couple of turns. That's a lot of turns of not doing a lot, right, with buffing. Those cards don't really do much by themselves. Then on turn 5 you play this. Starting turn 6 you start the heal and so on. And that also requires you to have all those cards in your hand already early on. And I think that's just pretty unlikely to happen. This card just feels like too expensive for just not enough of those cards that buff your hand. You know, maybe in the future there'll be more of these cards and it might get better. But right now, yeah, you can only build like a third of your deck around these cards, and that is not quite good enough. But maybe if that archetype becomes a thing, this will see play probably as a one-off, because 2 of these might be a bit too much, so I'll be giving this card 2 stars. And then we have maybe the best card in the package, which is Eternus, a 6 mana 6/2 dragon. Battlecry, take control of an enemy minion with this minion's health or less. So yeah, this card scales really well with those buffs. And of course, Mind Control is a pretty powerful effect. But yeah, by itself though, 2 health, it's not super amazing without any buffs, right? Like, yeah, you can put maybe like an Arcanite Defense Crystal, right, to like 2 health, and then you steal it. So obviously it's really good with stealing those kind of death battles. But yeah, against most decks where they just play just some regular statted minions, right, it's pretty hard to see this card being amazing. But if you do buff this a couple of times, it's really good, right? If you buff this 3 times, you can actually take control of those giants or other big minions like Naralex, that kind of stuff. So I feel like in most matchups, it's kind of going to struggle to see play by itself. And then, yeah, you have those buffs, but then you need to have this card in hand and have all those buffs to buff it before you can really steal those big minions. So yeah, it's really good in that hand buff priest style deck, if that ever sees play, and it's of course extremely good against those death rattles, right? Like decks that want to resummon cards, it's really good to like steal the cards they want to resummon, like steal an Ankyliax, right? And maybe kill the Tortilla with it, with the Stowed Ankyliax, and they can't res that Ankyliax anymore. Like that kind of stuff can be really strong. So it's kind of a meta-dependent card. But in most matchups, I just feel like it's gonna be just okay, even with buffs, because yeah, there's just a lot of regular minions, no death rattles. So I'll be giving this card 3 stars. Now that is the whole package for the hand buffs. Now let's get to some regular priest cards, starting with Intertwined Fate. A 3-mana spell. Discover a copy of a card from your deck and one from your opponent's. So this is a bit like identity theft, but instead of your opponent's hand, you discover from your deck, which is both an upside and a downside, right? Your opponent's hand sometimes doesn't have cards, or just has cards. Like against the Murloc Paladin, you get Murlocs, which you can't use as a priest, but you also got info on their opponent's hand, maybe some reduced cards you got this Theo, right? That could be amazing. But you also get to discover now a card from your deck, which is often pretty good because you put it in your deck for a reason. So I'm not really sure if it's an upgrade or downgrade from Identity Theft, but this kind of card you probably play in like a slower deck, a Control Priest deck, but the main problem is with that is that yeah, Priest just doesn't have a good removal. Well, we got Medivh now, but that's turn 10. There's no longer like a lot of good removal, like right, we had Cannibalize in that time, we had the Light It Burns. Those kind of cards were really good at killing minions or good AoE. It's just really lacking right now, and that is what makes this card not as good, I guess, in the current meta as Identity Theft was, but that's more of an archetype problem. I think this card by itself is solid, right? You get to discover 2 cards, a copy of your deck, so you might just get a really strong card twice, like let's say Medivh twice, that would be pretty incredible. And then you get some info in your opponent's deck, or well, hands on what they don't have in there. So I think it's a solid card though. Just, yeah, Control Priest, just not really a thing right now, but maybe with Medivh, so I'll be giving this card 3 stars. Now speaking of removal, we have Cease to Exist, a 3-mana spell with Rewind. Silence and destroy a random enemy minion. So this is a deadly shot that has rewind on it, and it also silences a minion. So this is of course incredible against some death rattles, right? Just get rid of a starship piece without it actually adding to the starship. So just like Eternus, it can be really good against those. But if the opponent goes white on the board, yeah, this feels pretty bad, right? You can't target the minion. Yeah, there is rewind, but yeah, what are the odds you're gonna hit the specific minion on the board of a couple of minions, right? It's still not very high. Yeah, it's a little bit higher than the usual deadly shot. It's only a little bit of improvement on the odds, and because you're playing priest, it can also be hard to like clean up the rest of the board to like isolate a big minion you wanna hit. And again, most decks don't really play death rattles or stuff you wanna silence, so I feel like most of the time it's just kill one minion, and that's pretty mediocre right now. So I'll be giving this 2 stars though. Again, depending on meta, it might get better if there's like a whole lot of death rattles that require a silence. And just like yesterday with Paladin, we got a new sort of location here as well with the past, present, and future. And this is the past Conflux, a 7-mana location. Summon a random dragon that costs 5 or more. Then the present one is discover a dragon that costs 5 or more and summon it. And the third one is discover a dragon that costs 5 or more and summon it, and you get a copy of it in your hand. So that is a lot of dragons and stats you can get with this card. But the first one is just summon a random, well, big dragon, I'd say, for 7 mana. That's pretty slow, right? Like, I'd say big dragon, but it can actually be a 1/1 dragon you can summon with that one. Or you get something amazing, right? Like a Dracorex, that kind of stuff. There can be some amazing dragons, but pretty varying quality. And I think that's the biggest thing against this card, right? Because it's 7 mana, and you want to do something instantly on the board, usually. And this card, it summons a dragon, which may or may not be useful. And again, like I said before, just cards that maybe are useful for 7 mana, just generally don't really see a lot of play. Now then the second part, right, you get to discover, which gets a lot better, right? So you don't get that 1/1 anymore. You probably get a dragon with good stats and probably an effect. So that's quite nice. And then the last one, yeah, you get some value, but I don't think, yeah, value with getting the dragon in hand is worth that much. I think often in most matchups, yeah, the big dragons, you just don't have time to play it right. They're not quite good enough by themselves. So I just kind of struggle to see when you want to be playing this card. Like, you just already, as priest, struggle to survive, right? You're going to be playing this in a slower priest deck, the control priest, and then can you really afford to, on turn 7, get a random dragon and then just hope it's good? I feel like you can't. And yeah, the second location, right, it is a big upgrade. You get the Discover It, which yeah, makes it much more likely again you get a good one. And the third one, I think, is a smaller upgrade to getting that value. So overall, I think this card is just going to be too slow to be played, right? you need like 7 mana to play this, maybe get something good, and you have to wait 2 turns to finally get to like a part you actually want. And then still, you still need to get a good dragon as option, which you might not get. It just takes too long. And even past turn 7, like you top deck this like in the very late game, like all you get is a is a random dragon on that board. And yeah, is that gonna win at that point in the game? I don't think so. I just don't think this card is gonna win you games, and I think you just rather play other cards. So I'll be giving it 1 star. And those are all the priest cards. Let me know what cards you are excited for in the comments. I know for sure I'm excited to try that Medivh. I'll definitely be playing that a bunch and trying to make a control priest deck work. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with my next reviews. Thank you for watching, and until next time.